Hello and welcome back to Anywhere But Here, episode 272. My name is Tom.
And my name's Zen.
And you can find us at abhpod.com, where somewhere on that page, if you scroll down, you will find an Amazon banner. If you click through that banner, go to amazon.co.uk and do your spending as you usually would. We get 5% of your total basket spend at the end. Doesn't add any money for you. You don't pay any more for it. Nothing changes about your shopping experience. We just get some of those profits that Jeff Bezos is spending on space rockets and things.
Yeah, and if you are against Amazon and you don't want to give them any of your money, that's fine too. You can support us by clicking on the Patreon banner, which is right next to the Amazon banner. All that is we ask for $1 a month as a pledge. You can do it once, or you can leave it and just keep giving us your $1 a month. I think it's slightly more than $1 because of taxes and whatnot, but we're only asking for $1. And you get extra things, so you'll get the podcast without this intro. You'll get after the podcast, which are exclusive to Patreon. You get spoiler casts. You get spoiler casts, which is where me and Tom discuss films or TV shows that we've seen. But you get them once, like when we record them, the week that we record them, they go straight out rather than having to wait months down the line when we need a filler episode. All that audio content gets put into a little private Patreon feed, so you can import that into your podcast listening app. You get the artwork with a golden thumb. And it just gets delivered to your podcast catcher like your podcast normally would. Also, if there's any YouTube content, you'll get that a little bit earlier than YouTube channel. We just put it out a couple of days early maybe. And we are now also on Patreon doing these podcasts with an extra video element, so you can watch us having this conversation. I know my dad's enjoying that. He's watching the videos again. He's putting the video on his TV.
Like the old days.
Yeah, like the old days.
You can find us on Twitter at ABH Pod. You can find us on Facebook.com/ABH Pod. And you can find us on YouTube.com/ABH Podcast.
Yes, if you want to get in contact with us anonymously, I mean, you can send us direct messages on those platforms, or you can also email us abhpod@gmail.com. If you've got a story, I mean, we still say that you don't want implications, but that's not what we do anymore, is it?
Not as much, only because people didn't really send those anyway.
No. We were hoping they would, but they didn't. But just send us an email as well. People do. I know Robbie does. I know Andrew does.
And there are definitely some issues raised on this episode today on which you might want to talk to us about. Specifically, we talk about the Black Lives Matter movement and everything that's been going on demonstration-wise across the world. Yeah, I mean, that sort of leads into us bringing up the subject of how this pandemic has raised or put on the forefront the inequalities within the world as well. Obviously, those things go hand in hand. But we do put a positive spin on it, believe it or not. There is always the chance to learn at the end of the day, and that's kind of what this entire episode is about. It's about educating ourselves and learning.
Enjoy. We're going.
All right, cool.
Yeah. It's a weird way to start it now, isn't it?
Yeah, no,
I've still not got used to it.
No, it's odd because then it's like, oh well, now we are definitely going. It's not that like you've got control over like putting the record on while we're still talking.
No. We're sort of talking, and then it's just this. I will press record. I mean, to be fair, that's how we do it in the pod as well. Like we'll be talking, and then I press record.
But it doesn't come up with a big blinking red sign on my screen. Oh, so no. I'm more aware.
Yeah.
We were kind of talking. We've been trying to get guests for this again, but you know they prefer to spend time with their families and girlfriends and stuff, which you know.
Yeah, I think the longer this lockdown is going on now, people are kind of like making plans and actually doing stuff rather than sitting around.
Yeah, possibly, and that's a good thing. That's a good.
It's a very good thing.
So we've come out
with no one. We've sent an invite out to someone who may be around.
Yeah,
but we'll see what happens. There's really only one thing that's been in the news in the last 2 weeks, and it's kind of been dominating even over coronavirus. I mean,
it has taken priority over coronavirus in a lot of people's lives as well. Obviously, you know what we're talking about. We're talking about the George Floyd situation, the Black Lives Matter movement. And people are going out protesting. Some silent protests, some more rioting and looting. But people are risking themselves, risking their health by going out to make this stand. So it like I say, it's taken priority. It is more important than their own health. People deem it more important than their own health. There was a march through Maidstone yesterday that, had I known about it, I probably would have gone down there myself. Or I would have seriously considered it. Obviously, in my line of work, I would need to sort of actually sit and think about it a bit more. I mean, we've got masks at home. I would have taken a mask down. I would have tried to keep my distance from people. Liz said she would have joined me, and I'm sure Chloe would have come down as well.
Yeah. Well, it's as you say, it's become really to the forefront of a lot of people's minds at the moment. And it's, the whole Black Lives Matter movement has been around for a number of years now.
Yeah, I mean, last time was 2016, wasn't it? Last time it was, I mean, it's always there, but last time it had this sort of publicity, this coverage was 2016, I believe.
I was going to say it must be about 5 years or something since I first heard the term. Because obviously the way that you tend to hear about these things is as a hashtag. But it just seems like this time is the right time for the message to get out there. Do you know what I mean? Because people don't have as much on.
I see what you mean. We're not busy. We're not consumed by other stuff.
And maybe the message is getting through this time because people have got that time to kind of think about it and ingest it. And realize. Also, of course, it helps when you've got a horrific video that is effectively a snuff film. To kind of actually highlight and go along with the message. I mean, this guy was killed for suspected crimes.
I have to admit, and it's probably my cowardice as a white man, I haven't watched that video.
It's a tough watch. It's horrible.
I don't particularly want to watch a man being killed, but at the same time, is it our sort of responsibility to watch it? If you know what I mean, like in the sense, why am I hiding away from it? Like you need to watch it. You need to understand just how horrific it was. I've seen pictures of him being knelt on, but I haven't actually watched the video.
It's the pictures don't quite do the sound justice.
No, and I think it's this. And I haven't had the opportunity because I didn't see it. I haven't seen anyone share it where I might have clicked it and just watched it. And I haven't actively gone and searched for it.
Which is fair enough. It's not something that
It's, like I say, it's not something I want to watch. I feel like it's my responsibility. I should watch it, but at the same time, and I think it shows this inbuilt prejudice, I suppose, in a sense, is the film with the old white guy being pushed over. I've seen several times. I've watched several times. But I won't watch the video of the black man being sort of abused. Is that part of the white prejudice that sort of, this?
I would. I
think it probably is. It's not a conscious choice I've made, but that's the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people are realizing and learning at the minute.
Yeah, I think, when, 5 years ago or 4 years ago, whenever it was that the last big Black Lives Matter campaign, if you like, went viral, there didn't seem to be quite as loud a voice behind it. And I don't know whether, like I said, I think this time I find this kind of stuff really difficult to talk about, just because I'm very aware that we're two white middle class guys. But we're the people that need to have this pointed out to us, I think, as well,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And I think the massive difference I've noticed this time, it's now become a thing. It's like, it's not enough to be against racism. It's not enough to not be racist.
Yeah.
We, as white people, have a responsibility now to be anti-racist.
Yeah, like, in the sense that yourself to the
we have to educate ourselves. We can't rely on, a term I've discovered is it BIPOC? Is it BIPOC? I don't know. Is it
right? Yeah,
which is Black, Indigenous people and people of color.
Yeah.
We don't need them to educate us.
Yeah.
We tend to, as white people, we tend to say, well, tell us what you want us to do. Tell us what you need us to do. And it's like, no, we should go and find this information. I would quite happily go onto the internet and find out how to fix something. So why can't I go onto the internet and find out how to be anti-racist, how to,
Yeah.
So, I am doing that now. I've sort of got a tab constantly open on my phone now, which is anti-racismforbeginners.com.
Sure.
Is that one I sent out? I put it.
Yeah, I had a little look through that.
Yeah, I'm reading one of the books that was recommended on there now as well. On the Kindle. So.
But the other thing about your point about the video, the white guy, the old white guy being pushed over, I think in a kind of insidious way that's kind of almost taken over in the last couple of days. Like, it was, do you know what I mean? Like, there's a definite.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's that it's being used to highlight to white people that this is happening to them as well.
It does.
And I don't know whether that's a press bias towards racism or against it.
It's the thing is, this is where the difficulty comes in. This is where doing the reading, you sort of learn about systematic racism, where it's something that is ingrained in our society. Like that, they say no one who is alive these days. And I think the book I'm reading, it's used in terms of white supremacy. It's not nobody alive these days is responsible for starting the white supremacy, but we are upholding it. So I think that's the same thing with the systematic racism. It's such a part of our lives now that we do it unconsciously. And that's that quote I shared on Facebook, which, to paraphrase it, is racism isn't always a conscious decision. It's very much a subconscious thing. We do it without realizing. I know I can't think of a particular time, but I can, pretty much guarantee 99% sure that I have subconsciously or been racist without meaning to, and not realized at the time that I was doing it.
Yeah.
Which is why I can't think of it in my mind that I've done it.
Yeah, because
that's why it doesn't jump out, because it's part of me. So I think this whole thing, they're focusing in this video, this white guy, not because, hey, look at them being horrible to this white guy. It's just in their heads.
Yeah,
we need to share this.
Yeah,
the news was showing that over and over and over again, like on a loop. Look at how horrible these people are being to this old white man and not helping him. So, but what about that black guy that they killed?
Who admittedly was campaigning on the side of Black Lives Matter. Let's not forget.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But it seems the focus has gone on to this old white man that's been pushed over and nobody helped him.
I mean, I'm sure it's. I'm not sure. I'd like to think it's just because it's the more recent thing, and that actually, everything does come back to George Floyd. George Floyd. Sorry,
no.
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know how. I mean, it's outrageous. Both things are outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the callousness of those cops that killed George was just unbelievable. When you watch it, you can't. It's the nonchalant nature of the guy
just kneeling,
stamping on his neck with his hand in his fucking pocket, like
just casual.
Yeah, and the fact that, you know, despite him pleading, despite the people around trying to help, the police are actively blocking them from helping. That's outrageous.
Yeah, and his partner was just sort of stood there as well, wasn't he?
Yeah,
from what I understand. Which
he's
complicit in it as well. Oh, was he in the car?
No. Sorry, there was a cop there.
The brother-in-law
holding people back.
Is he a brother? Was it a brother-in-law or something? He was married to his cousin or something. Like they're related.
Yeah. But you know, equally outrageous was the fact that, you know, that guy pushed that old fella over, didn't react to the fact that he'd pushed down an OAP. Only reacted when he saw blood coming out of this guy's ear, but then was like pushed on by his comrades.
But I think the guy that pushed him on, you saw. He sort of went to his radio. Whether he was radioing for help or not, we don't know. But at the same time, like, you'd radio for help, but stay there and try and help the guy yourself instead of just carrying on walking. But the amount of cops that just walked past without even reacting as well.
Yeah, that was going to be
an old guy laying on the floor bleeding from his head.
Like that's a serious injury. You stop and administer first aid. And it's you know, it's just you've heard this stuff about police in general, whether it's American police or British police or whatever. I mean, generally American police, because let's face it, they've got the I would say a slightly more God complex than British police, because they've all got guns, they've all got the right to, you know, go and kick ass and chew bubblegum.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is the fact that they've got firearms, which gives them that added power, doesn't it?
Yeah, protect and serve. But you often wonder, like, it can't be that all of them feel the same way. It can't be that there's more than just a small minority of these people who are that callous, that closed off, that hateful.
But
what's come out in the last 2 weeks is there's
a lot of them.
It almost seems like the American police, and I don't know, you know, how much of this is true, but I've heard people say it of the British police as well. It's like, oh, you become a police officer if you're, you know, if you wanted to go into the army and you didn't make it.
Failed,
like, you know, there's been this kind of narrative that if you're a policeman, you've got a chip on your shoulder.
Because you didn't make it into the army.
Or like maybe you were bullied in school or something and you want to give it back to the bullies or something like that.
It's also a certain personality type. You're sort of predisposed to have some sort of superiority complex.
Or like something to prove.
Some authoritative nature. Because I mean,
rather than wanting to uphold justice.
It sort of calls to mind the Stanford prison experiment.
Right,
where those college kids sort of, half of them were inmates and half of them were made prison officers. And, you know, it ended up becoming this huge power play. Like the guys that were prison officers started to use violence and aggression to sort of control the inmates, even though the inmates weren't real inmates and the prison officers weren't real prison officers. They sort of suddenly...
they were assigned roles of prisoners and prison wardens, weren't they?
And then some of the wardens obviously weren't as aggressive. They didn't sort of take on that nature, but then they sort of became submissive or complicit in it by just standing by and watching it happen.
Yeah,
which I think is a lot of what happens. I mean, the Nazi Party was the same, wasn't it? You know,
100%.
You had a lot of them took on this role and became quite abusive, and then you had the ones who just sort of stood to the sides and watched it happen.
Yeah,
it happens everywhere,
and it comes down to fight or flight as well, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing, whether you're going to be complicit in something or not. It's whether or not you want to stand up against it and maybe take some abuse as well, or whether you want to preserve your own life and
and
stand by and
I think that during like sort of closing the circle on that, it's us as white people being complicit and just watching racism happen and not speaking up about it. Like on Facebook, I've seen a lot of people, it doesn't surprise me which ones are doing it, but sort of saying, you get this horrific, so like a black man dies in America and the whole nation goes mad, but like children over here are abused daily and nobody says anything. Or what the fuck was his name? It's gone off.
Lee Rigby.
Lee Rigby, was murdered. Where were the protests then? And it's like, well, there were.
Yeah.
There were protests. I mean, what's this fucking anti-Muslim nation that we've become?
Yeah.
It like the Lee Rigby incident sort of fueled that as well. So we're constantly doing it. And then, even though Lee Rigby's own mum has come out and said, like, stop using his name in this way, people are still doing it.
Yeah.
And
it's I mean, this country has got more of a race issue with people from the Middle East and specifically Muslims. But a lot of right-wing people can't tell the difference between a Muslim and a Sikh.
But it's yes, or
do you know Hindu, what I mean?
Or even Hindu,
I
remember, I think I've said on it before, where we used to live, the shop at the top of our road, the guy was Hindu, and when 9/11 happened, he was abused and his shop windows were smashed and stuff like that. And it's like, it's completely different religion. It's crazy. But I think it's like I was saying, so seeing this stuff on Facebook and I just carry on scrolling past it. I mean, it's it should be, it's my responsibility, or I feel like I should now stand up and say something about it. Like, and not necessarily in an aggressive nature. This person might not realize that what they're doing is racist, or it's fueled by this prejudice that's may not be, it's not our fault, it's the world we've grown up in. It's our fault for not educating ourselves and recognizing it, but take the opportunity to teach someone. And
I think that's where ignorance is where a lot of people fall down when they use the all lives matter thing response as well. It's ignorance. It might not be out and out racism for people using that. No. They might think but don't all lives matter though?
And you're like,
and
yes.
It's like, well, yeah, they do, but
yeah,
you've got to understand that that the world and the society in which we live is founded upon slavery, first of all.
Yes.
And therefore, it's unlikely that anyone from a Black, Asian, minority background will be able to get to the same position of power as a white person, because there are systemic obstacles in the way of progress for those people, despite how enlightened we think we all are. The fact is that the whole of Western society is built on the backs of slaves,
white privilege, white supremacy,
and
not white supremacy in the way you think of like the Nazis were white supremacists. It's not. White supremacy is a real thing.
Fact of the matter is, white people went out and colonized indigenous people in their own country, forced our religion upon them, forced our customs upon them, forced our democracy upon them, forced our way of governance upon them, forced our culture upon them, appropriated the parts that we liked, for example, tea, curry, sugar, tobacco, and imposed everything that we saw as barbaric. Impose governance structures to these people's lives who were living quite happy, tribal or
they were doing quite well
communistic, not communist, but communistic. Communal living.
They were all about the group rather than the individual, whereas we are about individual progress rather than societal progress.
And again, this all kind of feeds back into something that we've been saying since the start of lockdown as well, which is this time that we have been unfortunately given, because obviously the coronavirus pandemic is a horrible thing to be happening. But this time of enforced lockdown or enforced contemplation, enforced being able to slow down and think about things, isolation, should be making us think about different ways that we can restructure society to be fairer to everyone, because it's only highlighted the divisions. The fact that in this country, it's likely the same in America, in other European nations as well, I would imagine. But if you're Black, Asian, whatever, if you're in the minority, you're more likely to suffer the effects of it. You're more likely to die. You're also more likely to be on the front line. Cleaning up wards, looking after the sick. You're not a surgeon, maybe. That's not necessarily true, but you're more likely to be coming into contact.
It's like I've said, a huge number of staff and our ward fall into that category of the minority. Our nurses, I'd say 75-80% of our nurses are either African or Caribbean. They fall in under the Black, the
BAME.
The label. That label, if you want to put a label on them, they fall into that category. Support workers, to be fair, a lot of the support workers are young white people, because that's how our nation works. We sort of go into healthcare, but there are a lot of Black, African sort of support workers as well. Our doctors are mostly either Black or Asian. So like you're saying, in healthcare, our healthcare system is run by, and not run by them as in they own it, because they don't, because it's run by white people.
Because again, what the other thing that's come out of this is that, the economy is fucked if people are locked indoors and can't spend money. And it's the rich people up the top who are worrying about this. And that's why restrictions are being lifted at the moment, so that we can all go out and spend money again.
That's it.
Regardless of the fact that the R number is only just below 1, and
only down south, because up north it's over 1.
And again, that's the disparity between north and south as well.
But the average is just below 1. But we had this discussion yesterday. It's not me and you. Like I had this discussion with my mum, because she's allowed to come and sit in my garden at a social distance now. Which she did, and then it rained. So we had to sit indoors at a social distance, but only for 5 minutes, because they had to leave, because they're not allowed to do that. But we were having this discussion that, the only reason the restrictions are being lifted, because it said stage 4, when the coronavirus is pretty much eradicated and we have a vaccine, only then will non-essential shops open and sports events start happening? We're not there, but yet sports events are happening and non-essential shops are opening.
Yeah.
Despite the fact we're not there. The only reason that's happening is, oh shit, the economy is looking a bit shit in a minute. Let's give it a quick boost before we have to go back into lockdown.
Yeah, because they're also what I've read in places and heard through other people is that the government is actively readying itself for a second wave in August. I know it's going to happen.
And if they're doing that, why are they lifting the restrictions? Wait,
exactly.
No, the second wave is going to happen because they're lifting restrictions.
Yeah.
The snake's eating its tail.
Yeah, what they're doing is they're easing lockdown so we can all go out, and then they can blame us for the second wave.
We know that.
I mean, and also it goes back to what they were saying right at the very beginning, which was herd immunity.
Yeah.
Let's just let the virus ravage the population.
Let's see if this works.
And then we'll build up a natural immunity to it. And it's like, well, no, this isn't quite the same thing. This virus has got a death count or a death ratio much higher than anything else. Like what you're doing is effectively genocide.
And do you know what's really pissing me off, actually, bringing it back to the BLM movement is I've seen on Facebook people sharing images of Black Lives Matter protests and going, oh look, second wave's coming now thanks to this lot. And it's like, well, what about the fact that last week you tagged yourself in at the beach?
Yeah, no, precisely.
Has that got nothing to do with it? What about VE Day celebrations? You said yourself that, was it on VE Day that you saw?
Yeah, there was
like a whole community
party around here. There was cheering and shouting and
people were out together. But nobody made comment about that, because we're celebrating the white soldiers of England and how well they did. And
how we fought off the oppressors.
Yeah. Nothing was said about that, but you get a Black Lives Matter protest and that ingrained prejudice reared its ugly head.
Yeah. I mean, I've also seen quite a lot of social distancing protests as well.
Oh, yeah.
Where people have gone out, and in this country and in America, where people have gone out and protested in open public spaces, but being 2 meters apart from each other.
Yeah, I mean, the one that marched through Maidstone, there was a video, and the people were quite obviously in separate groups. There were groups of people marching, like 5 or 6 people together walking.
Yeah.
It wasn't one big sort of snake of people. It was just like, they could quite easily be living together. You don't know that.
But again, like...
They're all wearing masks as well, which, the effects of masks, who knows, but if that has... But,
I mean, if you've got it, it's stopping other people getting it.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop you from getting it. It will limit the amount of transmission.
Yeah.
But yeah, it says something when people are willing to put their health and the health of their families and friends on the line to speak out against something.
And especially, as you said, that people of an ethnic background, like Black people or Asian minority backgrounds, are more likely to suffer worse with it. It will have the effects sort of like amplified just because of their DNA. It's unfortunately they're more susceptible to falling really ill with it. But the Black people are going out and protesting, putting their health like seriously at risk. Yeah, as you say, just for this movement.
Yeah, and also when the rioting first started and things like that, obviously you've got that voice coming again from white people, always, isn't it? And the president calling them thugs and stuff. But you've got to understand that this is hundreds of years of not being listened to.
Yeah.
It's utter frustration. Imagine, right? Like you and I have never had to worry about being pulled over whenever the hell we go out in a car anyway.
No.
These people, I mean, I was listening to
stopped and searched randomly because the police officer believes we might be somebody.
Yeah, because they're racially profiling us.
Yeah.
I was listening to Fat Man Beyond the other day, and Mark Bernardin was talking about it. He's like, yeah, it's something that as a black man, you have to be ready to be pulled over all the time. You've got to think like, right, what have I got in my car? Can I put my license in a place that's easily,
where I don't have to reach down somewhere?
Yeah, all that kind of thing. But also it's been on the news over here where they've been interviewing black people in this country and having to have a conversation with their sons and daughters saying that, like, you've got to be very mindful of the things that you're doing. If you're being too loud or if you're wearing a hoodie or something out and about, it's likely people are gonna think you're up to something, and it's just horrendous, you know.
And you know what? From some of the limited reading I've been doing, and this podcast, I'll mention the podcast in a minute. This podcast I was watching last night, a lot of what I hear is it's not always overt racism that affects people, you know, because they sort of build up a barrier to that. They're like the overt racism. They're like, fine, fuck it. I've made peace with that. Yes, you don't like me because I'm black or whatever. They sort of, and it's horrific that they've built up that thick skin where that sort of thing's not going to affect them, or they don't let it show that it's affecting them. But, you know, years later, it may come out that it has. It's the fact that people, without realizing, like you say, if you see a black guy with a hoodie, people might just, and we don't think it's noticeable, but you sort of sidestep slightly, so you're a little bit further away. That person has seen you do that, and they know why you're doing that. And it's the passiveness, it's the passive things that really, you know, the specific people that I've heard from or that I've read, they're the one that's the thing that hurts them the most, that affects them the most. It's that we go, yeah, you know, we're really progressive, we're not racist, but hey, just keep an eye on that one over there. And you know, we don't think it's racist. Like, in our head, we're not going, I'm being racist right now. It's just like, well, yeah, you've got to keep an eye on them because, you know, again, they look shifty. But why do we think they look shifty? If that was a white man with his hood up, we wouldn't think he looked shifty. He's cold. He's got cold ears. He's just, you know, he's got a cold head. Did you know what I mean? And it is that thing that I think we need to start recognizing that we're doing.
100%. And again,
and like you say, like being a parent, having to tell your child, you know, when you go out, don't put your hood up because you're black, people are gonna think you're up to something.
I mean, I tend to think anyone with their hood up is probably up to something. If it's like it's not raining, I see a white youth with his hood up, I think they're up to something as well. Like, there's enough of them around here. I think the hoodie thing, I think, is slightly different. But
it's just an example. But
no, it's an example that I brought up.
Well, I suppose,
but no,
it's us, you know, people who believe we're not racist, racially profiling people. So we are.
And again, I can't say that I've never done that. Do you know?
No,
what I mean?
And it's a hard thing to admit, but we have to. Like, we have to come to terms with it. It is going to be a difficult learning. It's a difficult moment of learning, and I think in doing this learning, we're not going to feel good about it at all.
But I also have, not in recent times, but for a long time, I think I've checked myself against it, and I know that I don't do it anymore. Because I go out of my way to kind of make eye contact and kind of give the old head nod and all that kind of stuff. Like it's something that I've made myself do to everyone. Like I say, not just recently, for years now I've been doing this because I became aware of it, I think, at one point, and I was like, why am I doing that? And I came to that conclusion quite a few years ago now, and I was like, why am I doing that? Like, I've never been attacked by, the only person I've ever been attacked by has been a white person.
Yeah, me twice. That's happened with me twice, and they both white.
Yeah. The only people I've ever been mouthed off to by are white people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. And you know
genuinely,
I mean?
like, and this was something that the thought process of mine I went through years ago, and I was like, there is no reason. I know, you know why it is. It's because black people don't want to start trouble because they will be in the wrong, you know.
You can guarantee if there was a fight between like a group of black people and a group of white people, even if the white people started it, it's the black kids or the black guys or they're the ones that are going to be more harshly punished, for want of a better phrase, for that fight, or they're going to be the ones that are pushed to the ground and knelt on, whereas the white guys they'll be restrained whilst they're standing up. I think the only time I've ever felt intimidated by a black person was when I was on the train when I was studying up in London. He was only asking for a cigarette, but he came up to me and started talking to me, and I was like, oh, fuck, what's going on? And he was just asking for a cigarette. And it's just moments, and I've just now, just realised that happened. At the time, I sort of felt it was justified. But, I mean, to be fair, if it was a white person that came on and acted aggressive, I may have reacted the same. But
public transport's a weird one as well, though. Like, I always get a nutter sit next to me on the bus, or, do you know what I mean? Like, I seem to be a magnet for those kinds of mentalists. So whenever anyone talks to me on public transport, I start getting like, fucking hell, I don't want to talk to you. I get very British about it, and I'm like, no, I'm just headphones in, man. I don't whoever you are. But it's something that I don't think anyone is innocent of. I think everyone is guilty of some sort of racial profiling in their past.
And it's
how you process that, I think, I'm not trying to make out like I'm some fucking woke superhero.
Oh no, no, of course not.
Because I'm not. But like I say, there was a point in my life where I was like, the fuck am I doing? Like, I've never had a problem with anyone. And it's not this whole thing of like, I've got black friends, but like I've never been assaulted by anyone but white people. I've never been mouthed off to by anyone but white people. Mm-hmm. Why do I feel when I'm walking down an alleyway and a black person is approaching me, why do I feel like I should give them extra room? Like, it's bullshit. So I don't anymore. And
a classic example that involved both of us and Corky, I suppose, is when we did a gig in Lewisham.
Yeah.
And we were at the Dirty South, and before we headed out for food, we were like, oh God, it's dark out there. And like I don't know if you felt the same, but I know I did. I'm sure it was a conversation we had. We all sort of felt quite nervous about walking down the street to go and get food because we were in Lewisham and it was dark. I mean, part of it comes from the fact that it's a town we don't know, or a part of London we're not familiar with. Part of it may have come from the fact that it's Lewisham. I don't know if it's a majority black majority there. I'm not sure, but there's a lot more than there are in Maidstone or in Kent. So I don't know. And you hear about Lewisham and Brixton places like that, and you hear about gangs, and it sort of puts it makes you. But again, how much conflict did we get when we walked down to that chicken shop?
Zero.
None. Nothing.
Fucking zero.
Nothing at all. We walked out, it was fine. So why the fuck were we a bit apprehensive about going out and getting food?
Yeah, because South London's an intimidating place. There's all these. I mean, genuinely, it
is. Yeah.
But the myth has always been, there's gangs, and especially South London, it's black gangs.
Yeah.
Brixton has had this. It's not so much anymore because it's been gentrified effectively. But I remember, like, Brixton always had this kind of air of danger about it whenever you used to go to the academy or whatever.
Yeah. Fuck, the tube station's so close to the academy. I wouldn't want to be walking around Brixton.
But it's all. I mean, there are no stereotypes or myths without some sort of truth behind them. But,
of course.
But again, never had any trouble in South London ever.
But the thing is, these truths are, again, is part of the systemic nature of it all. Is the reason there's probably so much crime and stuff is because these people were oppressed.
Yeah,
they were put into these poor
shitty council blocks.
Yeah, they were put into these run-down, poor areas of London and the surrounding areas. The schools didn't have quite the funding that the schools in the more affluent areas did, so the educations weren't quite so good. So these people couldn't get the education they needed to make the money to afford things in London, so they may have been forced into crime.
Another thing as well, like I was listening to Louis Theroux's podcast Grounded the other day. He was talking to KSI,
right?
And he was saying some quite interesting stuff about like first and second generation kids of immigrants who've come over and were settled and put into these areas. He was like, well, that's where the whole kind of postcode thing comes in. It's like, you know, that you aren't from the Caribbean, for example, or Africa, but you're not British either, because you've been put into this place where there are no white people, or there are quite few. There's not a lot of white people, and like your parents don't necessarily speak the same language, or like they haven't integrated as well because they haven't been allowed to integrate. And therefore what you know is you're from this area. And that's where you get gangs, because it's like, well, this block is where I'm from, and that's where my patriotism is. Like my patriotism is to my block.
Oh, okay, so they don't have their patriotism from their heritage, like from where their parents are from, because they're not from there.
No, they were born
here.
But
they also don't have the English patriotism because they're not integrated as such. So their identity comes from their postcode. That is their country, so to speak.
You know, it was a really interesting listen.
That's a good way to put it, actually. That's really, I've never thought of it like that. But there's a lot going out there. I mean, the podcast I was referring to earlier, it was Achievement Hunter. So one of their ex-members was a black gay female. So as they put it, the opposite to a white straight male. You know, so any abuse they're going to get is pretty much because of that. But she basically put out on Twitter, because she was being pulled into a lot of conversations on Twitter. They included Mika Burton, so she's LeVar Burton's daughter.
Oh, right.
Geordie from Star Trek.
So
she was part of Achievement Hunter, and she ended up leaving. And at the time, she was like, because of the amount of abuse she was getting from the fans, you know, people not liking her because she was a new member there, but also she's black, gay, female. So she was getting a huge amount of abuse. So she ended up leaving, and because of what's going on now and her name being pulled into it and stuff like that, and going, Achievement Hunters community is toxic, they forced Mika to leave, blah, blah, blah. And then she put out saying, like, as my name's being brought into this, I do need to say it wasn't just the fans, it was my employers as well. It was the people I was co-workers were part of the reason I left. So they ended up, they had a podcast about it, and one of their members now, who is also a black gay female, from France as well originally, so she was on there being that voice and sort of talking about her experiences from it, and it's a really, really tough listen. Like, it's really emotional. It's the guy who set up Achievement Hunter, the two guys that set up Achievement Hunter, talking with her, and two of the other members. And basically a lot of what came out of that was they obviously thought they were a progressive company, because they support the LGBT community, they support like black creators and things like that. But what came out of it was the fact that whenever there was any of this abuse, racial abuse and death threats and things like that, they stayed silent. So they sort of went with the don't feed the trolls mentality, which doesn't work nowadays.
No.
Because it's a very, like 10, 15 years ago, that worked. But because the internet is such prevalent, like we come from a time, like they discussed it, we come from a time where there was no internet.
Yeah.
So when the internet came along, it was a toy to us.
Yeah.
And social media, it's just a toy. It's something to play with. But you kind of have to realize now with like people, like the new generation, like Chloe, it's always been there.
True.
So the way the guy puts it, Jeff puts it on this podcast, was the internet to Chloe, for instance, is like the newspaper or news was to us. It's that real. Like it is just part of life. That's where they get their news from. That's how they communicate with their friends. We didn't have that. So it's strange that stuff on the internet is very, very real. We can go, it's just some troll on the internet.
Right.
But to people these days, like people growing up these days, that's a very real thing. That is a personal attack. It's being called out in public. And they just realised that they just staying silent isn't enough these days. So allowing those comments to go unnoticed sort of makes the people making those comments feel like it's a safe place. So then they gather. So then you get lots of them coming in and gathering because they're not being called out. They're not being held responsible for what they're saying.
Yeah.
So, hey, you can say what you want over here. It's fine.
But also, I suppose from her point of view, if you're being abused by community members and your employer isn't talking, isn't blocking these people, isn't taking task about it, how does that make you feel as the person
they
being
don't feel
abused?
supported? And that's pretty much that's sort of part of what came out of that podcast as well. It was a tough listen, but it was really good because it's sort of everything I'm watching now, I'm like, it's sort of stuff that we know deep down, but we don't recognize it and we don't pay attention to it and we don't actively learn from it. We just accept it as what it is. Yeah. Instead of learning from it.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think we just have to realize that we do need to be vocal about these sort of things now. This person on Facebook, one of these people on Facebook, she, you were saying that it's not like I've got black friends thing, like this person on Facebook who I'm not gonna call out how I know them because that's just not on, but they shared one of these Lee Rigby things,
right,
but nobody said anything about Lee Rigby. And then they shared a status later on saying like they were called out for being racist because they said this thing about Lee Rigby. Should I say this to, should I see whether my ex who is mixed race thinks I'm racist? Should I go and talk to my husband's ex who is also mixed race? Shall I see if they think I'm racist? Shall I see if my co-workers who are mostly African and shall I see if they think I'm racist? And it's like, that's not it. You might not be actively being racist, but what you're saying is passively it is racist.
But again,
you might not recognize that, but it is.
Again, it all comes down to education, doesn't it? And
this person isn't stupid. They're very well educated.
No. I don't mean that. I mean self-educate.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
And ignorance around the issues and what it actually means, what the term racism actually means. It's not just like you hate people of a specific color.
No.
It's that you act differently around certain people. It's that you don't speak up about things that you notice in the same way that you would one against the other. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's such a tricky subject as well because you are in danger, and it's not this. What I'm about to say isn't a reason to stay silent. Because you could use it as an opportunity to learn. But in calling somebody out and defending a minority group being targeted, you could accidentally say something racist then as well.
This is why it's such a thorny issue, and it's why people don't get involved in it, is because either way, it's a tightrope.
yeah, because on one hand you could say something accidentally racist. On the other hand, you could be seen as somebody like, well, what right have you got to speak up about this? You know, you're white.
Which is why I'm quite I'm really trying to think about what I'm saying on this. I really don't want to.
Whereas I'm not. I'm just forging ahead. But
no, you've done. I think you've probably done a lot more reading into this than I have as well.
Honestly, not a hell of a lot. Not a lot. Not a lot.
Okay.
Not as much as I'd have liked to have done by now. But
yeah.
But I am. You know.
That's it, and you know. That's something, isn't it? It's we're in a more educated position than we were a couple of weeks ago, maybe even, you know. But yeah, there's a long way to go. But what it all comes down to, and what this whole 4 months or whatever it's been has kind of highlighted is the divisions in society and how unfair society is, and how it's stacked up to only really benefit the affluent. And nothing. The economy is just ones and zeros these days. It's not really like when you think the government is spending 50 billion or 5 billion, what is it, 5 billion a month on the furlough scheme or something like that. It's numbers that you can't really easily comprehend. And you're like, well, where the fuck is this coming from?
And it also has no physical representation. Like it's not like money these days is such a what's the word we use? You use it to describe time sometimes. What is it?
It's like a metaphor, isn't it? It's
like money's not it's not a tangible,
not a metaphor. It's it's a concept.
Construct. It's concept. So it's,
I mean, money has always been like notes specifically have got.
It was,
this note represents this worth.
Yes,
it's got words.
It has no
of that on there. You know, It doesn't have a physical value.
Yes,
because it's just made of. Well, now it's made of polymer, but
at least it had back like years ago. It had a tangible. There was a tangible element to it, you know. I have got a £10 note. You know, I have got a £2 coin. But that still exists. But a majority of transactions these days are like, this is on my screen. It says I've got this, so I am going to transfer this to you. Like there is no tangible element to it.
No,
you're not physically handing over anything. That has a value on it. So the government spending 5 billion. It's just like them pressing a button to transfer. It's to delete some numbers on their side so somebody can type some numbers in on the other side. That's all it is.
And you're like, is someone lending? Who is? I assume it's the International Monetary Fund or the international banking. You know, it's coming from somewhere.
So I know, Bank of England. Oh, hang on. There's like two different things there's two different places that. So like the mint. People think money comes from the mint, but it's not. The mint only makes the physical, tangible money.
That's right.
But Bank of England, I think, is responsible for releasing money. So the Bank of England can wake up, like whoever's there, they can wake up one morning and go, I want to give the government £10 billion. And they just create this money from nowhere. But in creating this money, they devalue all of the other money. Because there's more money now.
And this is the ludicrousness.
Supply and demand. So supply and demand is sort of the balance tips. So there is now more money than is demanded. So that means the money that is out there has a lesser value. But they've injected 10 million into the government. The government has to pay that back at some point. But they're paying it back to what? Because then it becomes nothing again.
And this is kind of my point for bringing this up, is that like there's nothing to say that 2020 is the reset date on all national debts. I know that there's a lot of complexity involved in that, and that, you know, but there's nothing to say we can't do that.
No.
And start again from zero. Yeah. Like, the only people that are gonna, I mean, this is probably a very simplistic view.
Yeah. But
because I'm not an economist.
No.
And I don't know the ins and outs of the economy, because
and you don't know even the implications of what we're suggesting.
No, even the people who trade on stock floors have no fucking clue. I mean, it's all an algorithm now. The economy is like, it's not controlled by people. Yeah. It's controlled by maths. Yeah. It's bizarre. But the only people who I could see that would lose from this is the mega rich.
People who have investments,
Yeah.
Yes, but I mean, even if you've got savings, like even if we've only got like savings of like 2,000-3,000, whatever, you know, it would devalue those savings like massively, I believe. I don't know why.
No,
I don't know where the knock-on effect comes from to devalue those savings, but it would. Yeah, for some reason.
I just think that there needs to be a change at some point where we're not living in such a hyper consumerist culture. I mean, the fact is, I've bought virtually nothing apart from food and drink for the last 2 months. So I've really tightened my belt. I've kind of made a conscious decision to be like, well, why am I amassing a CD and DVD collection when I can listen to things on Apple Music, or, you know, watch things on streaming, or, you know, why do I have to own things? Why do I need to constantly be spending money? I don't.
No.
And I'd like to think that once things get back to normal, whatever the fuck that looks like, that I will continue to be not frugal, but think about, like, do I need that?
Yeah, it's weird to think that not consuming is considered frugal, isn't it?
Yeah. It's because we live in a capitalist society. Like, capitalism is, you must spend because you're earning money. Why not spend it?
Yeah. That's it.
You know, that's how our economy works. And it's starkly obvious now. Because they want to, you know, put various members of the community at risk just to kickstart the economy again. Yeah. And it's like, well, who's benefiting from that? Because we're not really. No. I don't feel like I've missed out from being able to, you know, what was I spending my fucking money on before? You know, like, what was I doing? I guess
food,
fuel, band practices, restaurants and pubs.
Yeah.
Like, the fact is, I haven't really missed going out to restaurants. I haven't really missed going out to pubs. Occasionally I get a pang for, like, oh, I quite like to go to Pizza Express or something.
Yeah. But really, a nice burger from a decent restaurant, like a pub restaurant. Yeah.
But really, I can make those things at home, and I have done.
Yeah.
And I had done that before as well, but I can't remember the last time I went into a restaurant that wasn't on a press junket.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I'm bowled over by the food and the service and you know, the experience that I'm having.
Other than food now, like going to a restaurant doesn't feel like an event anymore. It's, if the food's lovely, you feel like you've had a great time, and it's like, well, that's not, you know, that's not the experience. Occasionally we get servers who are really, really go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And they will stand and talk to you for a little bit, and they're quite nice. But if you like that sort of thing, I think the only thing that I've really missed is get-togethers with friends. But
the one thing that
I'm not with our friends group or thing. Like, I'm not a physical contact person anyway, so I haven't really missed that. And we're doing the weekly get-togethers. Although I missed one this week. Although we're doing the weekly get-togethers, so like I'm still having that gathering just in a virtual environment. And I
think those are really kind of helpful. You know? And the fact that we have got this technology where we can see each other and speak to each other, and it's in real time, and you know, I think that's great. It's been able to keep people in contact and keep people sane. But I do miss. I'm a bit of a hugger. I do miss physical contact with people. I miss my family. And my friends. Those are the things, and it's putting that into. I knew that I would. But I thought I would miss other things more. I suppose I miss the cinema a little bit, if I'm honest.
I do. We've got, like I said the other week, we've got a sound bar now. So we watched Maleficent 2 last night, and like, and our new TV's 4K as well. Like the hype is real with 4K. It's incredible. I didn't realise quite how good it was.
Okay.
But the sound bar's great, and so you sort of almost get. And we make our own popcorn, so it's freshly popped, it's warm, it's really salty, and it's
fair enough. So you're recreating that
sort of get that cinema environment, but it's not the same because it's not an oversized drink. It's not an oversized, and we can pause it.
You could probably make it darker in the room than most cinemas, to be fair.
Because we haven't got the emergency lighting on.
But I mean, it's interesting what I have and haven't missed, and interesting to think that I don't miss a lot of things, and that might be because I'm actually more of an introvert than I realise. And I am I'm okay with this. Like in some ways, I don't want it to get back to normal. Me too.
like not to the extent that I'm quite happy with how it's going. I'd like to come to the pod and record. I'd like to go round a friend's house to a barbecue. I'd like to go for a wander through town, which I hate town, but I'd like to go. I'd like to go to a supermarket without having to queue up outside. But because we've had our garden done now, and because we're allowed to have people over, we're having gatherings socially, but we're only having sort of 1 or 2 people over at a time. But only if they're living in the same house. We're not doing the mixed house, so it would be quite nice if like we could have a barbecue where like I'd invite you and Joe, and then Liz can invite some of her friends.
Like bigger
we can have
gatherings.
our friends pop over, and we can all sit in the garden or sit in the house. Or I'd quite like that. And I never thought I'd say that I'd like to go and sit in the garden, but I've loved having our garden. I've been sitting out there so much.
It has been
so nice.
It has been
having a space that I can use.
Definitely. Though the weather has turned lately, and that's good for the garden.
We've got plants now. We've got artificial grass, so that doesn't matter.
Oh right,
we haven't got a shed yet, which I can't wait for the shed. But we've got plants and stuff now, and I was quite happy that it rained yesterday because I didn't have to remember to go out and water the plants. That's quite nice. I'm growing veg,
Oh, nice.
Or herbs, and kale, which is I don't know. It's kale. It's a veg, isn't it?
It's a vegetable. Yeah,
it's a leaf. So I'm growing some of that, growing some herbs, but it, I've like last week I would go, I want to read, and then I'd go, I'm going to go and sit in the garden and read, which I've never done, ever done that before, but I did. I took my Kindle, I went and sat in the garden and read. A cup of tea, which that's not me. I'm not that person.
No, I tend not to be. But there's been nothing else to do, and I've spent like 4 or 5 days, like almost entirely this whole time out on a sun lounger, lounging around, and it's been really peaceful. And like you, I would without the horrible pandemic going on and the loss of life, this is how I would like to live the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I know I can't.
No.
But yeah, I'm getting so much done, and
feel
so much more relaxed, healthy.
And it goes to show, like, I had 2 weeks off of work last week and the week before, and I felt so relaxed, and I did a workout every day, and I was reading a lot, and I was listening to my audiobooks a lot, and I was listening to podcasts, and I was cooking, and I was learning. And then I went back to work, and I don't want to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I don't want to do anything. I don't want to read. I am reading, like, I'm educating myself on that, but I don't want to work out.
But it's a chore.
Yeah, because I've been working now, I just want to veg and do nothing. But
yeah,
I really enjoy working out. That feeling working out gives me, and I enjoy reading, but when I'm at work, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, and that's
but I like
worry.
My job.
Yeah. No, I know. It's strange, isn't it? Like, I don't dislike my job either. I enjoy my job, but I have a fear that once I go back, I'm going to slip back into those roles that I was in before, where I kind of, as soon as I'm off work, I'm like, oh, I just want to do nothing.
Yeah.
I hope I don't. I hope that I'm putting in place habits that mean...
And I think you will. I mean, because you're furloughed, you're able to consistently do these things and build up a routine.
It's during the day, though. That's the thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's when I would normally be at work.
But hopefully you're doing it to such an extent that you will miss it when you're not doing it.
I have started moving my runs into the evenings, into a time where I would be getting home from work. But quite frankly, I don't want to go back to the office. I can't see how social distancing will be handled. Yeah. Plus, Joe's going to have to go back to work at some point quite soon.
Yeah,
because schools are reopening.
Yes,
and
some have already gone back in your area, haven't they?
Well, primary schools have.
They went back this week. Monday.
Secondary schools have been open this whole time for key workers' kids.
Yeah,
but they're starting to bring back.
So has Joe been one of the teachers that wasn't in?
She has only been in twice.
Okay.
Since like March or something.
Yeah.
But there's still going to be a rota in place. It's still going to be like they go in on a rota system. The teachers move between the classrooms rather than the kids.
Yeah.
And it will be half days.
Yeah. Okay, so they'll do half day and then clean.
Yeah. And then another group of kids comes in for the next day or something like that.
That's what I was saying about Chloe's school. When they sent out their plan, it was going to be half the kids would go in Monday, Tuesday. They do a deep clean on Wednesday, and then the other half would go, but full days, Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, right.
But like you say, the teachers would move between classrooms rather than the children. And then they do a deep clean on the Wednesday. Then Thursday and Friday, the other half of the kids would go in. Yeah. And then they do a deep clean over the weekend at some point. So it seems like a similar plan, but rather than doing like Monday, Tuesday, it sounds like Joe's school are doing half days
every day. Yeah, I think so. So we've got to wait and see how that rota shakes out. But she reckons she might only be in 3 times before the summer holidays or something.
It's so weird, isn't it?
But the fact is that she will then be back in a classroom with no PPE in front of kids who might find it difficult to socially distance. I don't know, there's also going to be that. So the fact is that through her work, she's at risk, which means I'm at risk, which means I really shouldn't be going back into the office.
And that is how you will tell them.
Yeah,
it seems weird, doesn't it, that you're going to use, like, you can use this pandemic for your own benefit, but
I have been anyway. This whole time.
Of course,
I've managed to
productive.
Yeah, productive. I've saved a lot of money.
Healthy.
probably more than doubled my savings since I've been in lockdown,
wow.
which is weird, but only because my company has continued to top up to 100%.
Oh, okay.
Wage,
oh, wow.
Up until this month, where it went down to 90. So that's been quite nice. Healthier, fitter, more productive. It's like that Radiohead song. But I think the main thing, that has come out of this, and I don't know how to I feel like I should be doing something about it, is this whole inequality thing.
Yeah.
And trying to research a different form of, it's probably too late, but it depends whether we get a second wave, doesn't it, I suppose. But
yeah.
I just wonder whether there are groups out there who are trying to put forward a slightly different way of doing things in the future, and I think I need to start looking at those kinds of groups and trying to get involved in that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sort of, don't want to say jumping on this bandwagon, but I'm using this Black Lives Matter movement to sort of educate myself on to how to be a more vocal anti-racist. Yeah. And I don't mean, like, I'm not going to turn into an activist and start preaching. I just mean just somebody who can spot somebody being racist, communicate why and how they're being racist and how not to, without causing conflict. And
that's the thing, isn't it? Nuanced conversation is fucking difficult, especially with people who have closed minds.
And it's and we're guilty of it as well, being the sort of lefties that we are. We don't want to hear any right-wing arguments, even if the person's arguing it. We sort of shut off and become deaf to it. I suppose it's being more open in listening as well. I think listening is a massive part of what we need to do.
Yeah.
With this equality thing, it's difficult, but I want to be able to communicate, but know what I'm communicating as well.
Yeah,
actually understand what I'm arguing.
After 6 years of doing this podcast, we're actually going to start researching. But no, I think that, and that's a positive place to end the recording, I think.
Also, I think it's really important. Something that came out that Achievement Hunter podcast as well that's really important is we don't want congratulating an anti-racist, because this just be part of being a decent human being. We shouldn't need to be congratulated on that sort of thing. It's that's something we should just be doing as a person.
I think the point of this is that, we're having the conversation. Hopefully people who are listening to this who might not have thought about it. I know that most of the people that listen to this are in the same kind of bubble that we are.
Yes.
As far as I'm aware.
We have created an echo chamber.
But maybe have a think about what you may have done in the past or whatever. And the whole point is that learning is a good thing. Educating yourself on these issues is a good thing.
Have you been complicit in this? Have you been enabling this by not speaking up?
All we can hope is that people on the right side of things also do the same.
Yeah.
Who knows if they will? Probably not. But the fact is, anyone can do this reading. Anyone can self-reflect. Anyone can try to put themselves in other people's shoes and look at the way things are set up and see the inequality. I mean, there's never been a time that I can remember in my lifetime, certainly, where divisions in society and across all sorts of socioeconomic groups are being highlighted with such clarity.
Yeah. It's never been quite so obvious as it is now. And the
inequalities are being highlighted to the point where it's really, really difficult to ignore and not feel some kind of compassion, not feel I want to change things to make the whole of society more fair. I just think is probably the thing we all need to go away and do. Whether that's just something that you take forward in your own life, or whether it's something that you want to, I don't know, campaign on or get involved in some sort of group or something. Any change that you make for the positive is good.
Yeah, I mean, it only really takes a generation to do it. Like something like that, because the book I'm reading, the woman says that, like the author said, she wants to be a good ancestor. And it takes you learning, you learn it, you start living that life, and then you teach your descendants. Like if I teach Chloe how to be anti-racist rather than just not racist, if you teach her to be anti-racist, then that's ingrained in her life. And then she'll do it with her children, and then and do you know what I mean? It just takes that one generation to change, and then it should in theory have a knock-on effect, and then the world's changed forever. It's not that simple. If only it was.
Because otherwise we'd be in a utopia now.
Because there's other people.
But we're not.
No.
So I need to have a kid.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Anyway,
but no. In all seriousness, I think once again we've gone from something super depressing. Yeah. But there are positives to every situation. As horrific as everything that's going on in America is right now, as well as other places in the world, there are things that you can do. There are things that you can get involved with. There are things that you can change.
And there are a huge number of people out there willing to help us learn. And there's a huge number of people willing and wanting to learn. So
carrying on with that positive vibe, like refusing to let this whole situation we're in bring us down. Regardless of the shit that's going on. I mean, get in touch. Let's have a chat. Let's make it a thing that is a little bit more.
Let's have a conversation.
Let's do that. I was trying to get somewhere, but the words were escaping me. For this episode of Anywhere But Here, I've been Tom.
And I've been Ant.
Black Lives Matter.
Oh, they do. Sorry. Can you say we didn't discuss this?
Bye.